Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello, and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch. This is episode number 70. Today, I am talking to 57-year-old senior master instructor at Soulcycle, Sue Molnar. Now, Sue is a Soulcycle instructor in New York City and the Hamptons. She's been with Soulcycle for 14 years, from the very first studio in the rear lobby on West 42nd Street in New York City. Really interesting conversation. She's a former flight attendant, and she would fly to LA to teach classes at Gold's Gym and then work back to teach Soulcycle in New York City. Eventually, she retired from United, and our conversation not only talked about her journey as a lifelong athlete, being a competitive cheerleader in high school. She was into step aerobics in the 80s like we all were, an avid weightlifter. But we got into a pretty raw conversation about her being a cancer survivor and currently going through a pretty hard struggle with divorce like a lot of us have. So I really think you'll enjoy this conversation, not only hearing about Soulcycle and her being the oldest Soulcycle instructor they have right now and her journey with that, but conversations that are real about life in general and what's going on with us gals today in our 50s, 60s, and beyond. I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, here is my interview with Sue. Hi, Sue. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Helen. Nice to be here.
I am so glad. I have always been fascinated with Soulcycle, and I was like, I need to get a Soulcycle gal on here. And I found you. You were the perfect age for this podcast. And so I thought, reach out. And as the universe would have it, we aligned, and here we are. So for my listeners, I am talking to 57-year-old senior master instructor at Soulcycle in New York City and the Hamptons, Sue Molnar. Now, Sue has been with Soulcycle for 14 years, from the very first studio in the rear lobby on West 72nd Street. A competitive athlete her entire life. She was a competitive cheerleader in high school. She started her fitness career with high and low aerobics and then step aerobics in the 80s that we can all relate to. She was, and jazzercise too. You probably threw some of that in there too. Or if you didn't teach
I never did jazzercise.
You never did. She was a kickboxer in the 90s, an avid weightlifter. And then a friend just talked her into spin, and she hated it, which I think is super funny. And so anyway, one thing led to another. And so here we are today, actually being able to chat with her about her experience at Soulcycle. But she has, an interesting background. So I always like to ask my guests, let's just start from the beginning. Where were you born? What gave you that competitive itch to, become a cheerleader, to, participate in sports in school, all that fun stuff?
Well, okay. I was born in Wisconsin and lived there till I was 10, but then we moved down to South Carolina, and that's where I kind of consider where I grew up, high school and college in South Carolina. And I guess I just consider myself lucky, actually, that I was into sports because I think movement and exercise, I think it's just one of the most crucial components for a happy life. And to have come by it naturally is a blessing. Not to say it's always come easy for me because it hasn't. But, when I was young, I was outside on a bike and running around and played softball when that came around, and then played tennis for a while avidly. I played like 4 or 5 hours of tennis a day for years when I was like 10, 11, 12. And then I don't know why. I really don't. I just caught the cheerleading bug. I put that tennis racket down and I picked up cheerleading pom-poms overnight. I stopped playing tennis and I just started cheerleading. And we were competitive in high school. It's not like it is now with all the gymnastics and the crazy, Cirque du Soleil type stuff. It was much more basic back then, but we were doing some of the gymnastics and a lot of the stunt building, and it was very physical. And we practiced every day. We were very focused. Anyway, so that kind of instilled a real work ethic in me, athletically. And then when I was a cheerleader in college as well, but not competitive. I just did it for fun. It was still a great workout. And then when I graduated college and hit the real world, I think that was a shock for all of us. At least it was for me.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, how am I going to incorporate movement and exercise into my life? Because for me, exercise that I enjoy has been a godsend and very motivational, but exercise I don't like, I will not do. I will make up my mind to show up 3 days a week and I won't go. I'll pay a fortune for whatever latest thing and I won't do it. If I don't want to do it, I ain't going to do it. There's no way of forcing myself. So, my good friend, my best friend all my life, started teaching aerobics, and she just talked me into it. She said, "Sue, come on, you don't have to pay a gym membership. You can exercise for free, and you have to show up." That's one of the reasons I became an instructor, is because I couldn't wake up and go, you know what, I'm not going to go today. When you're teaching the class, you have to show up.
You're right.
And so not only was I making a little bit of pocket change, but the reliability is built in. You have to show up. So, high and low impact aerobics, I'm a big music freak. So the fact that music is involved in those kind of group fitness activities was big for me. Then I went to step aerobics. And when I moved to Los Angeles back in the 90s, I discovered weightlifting for the first time. Hallelujah. I didn't realize how crucial strength training is.
Right?
Oh my gosh, because cardio. It seems like the 80s, 90s, all the way through to today. Cardio, right? And it's just one pillar of a fitness routine. And I discovered that weight loss and body tone and everything was all about weightlifting and strength training. And so I did that avidly for 10 years. And unfortunately, then I was doing kickboxing, and my friend talked me into doing a spin class. I did hate it. I walked out and I remembered I said to her, that was for the birds and I'm never doing that again. And but then everybody was doing it, and so I gave it a couple more tries, and immediately I figured out if I could play my own music in here, then I would love this. So I got certified and I started teaching, started playing my own music, and it took me a long time. I was honestly one of the first people back in the late 90s, early 2000s to play different music in a spin class. Because up until then it was all boom, 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 this, that, or the other. And I would play show tunes. I would play rock and roll. I would play soft rock. I would play soulful stuff. And luckily for me, I knew while I was doing that in Los Angeles, Julie, Elizabeth, and Ruth were putting together Soulcycle in New York City. And they flew out to LA and took my class and offered me a job in New York.
Wow.
And so my first thought was, I'm not moving to New York. I mean, it was absolutely not. No, there's no way I'm moving to New York. I can't afford to live there. I did live there in the 90s, but I didn't want to go back. But once again, overnight, I thought about it. I was a flight attendant at the time, just like you. I flew for United for 22 years. And I figured out that I could actually be bicoastal, and I could keep some classes in Los Angeles and teach at Soulcycle in New York City. For 2 years, that's what I did. I was a flight attendant, and I worked in between the two coasts, and I taught my spin classes in each city. And that was pretty fun and pretty crazy. I made it work. It was like clockwork every week. And finally, I was able to, United offered early retirement, and I was able to let that go and focus entirely on my Soulcycle career, which has been amazing and beyond my wildest dreams. However, at Soulcycle, instructors are really expected to teach from 10 to 14 classes a week.
Ooh.
And I did that for, it's 14 years now, and I've pretty solidly through that 14 years taught an average of about 12 classes a week. And I let the strength training go because I didn't have the time or the energy for it. And that was a big mistake, because now I'm at 57, I'm actually trying to get that back. And it's not so easy, because it's, you have to figure out your energy balance too, right? For all the activities in your life.
Exactly.
And when I was in LA, for some reason, a routine is important to me. And I just was in a daily routine where I'd get up, have breakfast, and go to the gym. And I have not been able to make that happen for myself since I've been at Soulcycle. I'm trying to figure out how to get back into that kind of routine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just another challenge along the journey. I try not to ride all 12 classes anymore, because too much of one activity like that I don't think is good for the body.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
But that's about it as far as the timeline of the career.
Okay. So let's just talk about Soulcycle for those of my listeners who aren't aware of Soulcycle or don't know what Soulcycle is. It's kind of like, in my opinion, like this, I don't want to use the word cult, but it's this very tight-knit community. I was a big spin person also too.
Oh, you were?
Big time. I still have my spin shoes. I freaking love to spin, but I would go to certain instructors because their music was so much better. Like, I would get so fired up if they had rock and roll or 70s or Motown or things that you could really get into. Just like when I go to the gym now. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts at the gym, but I definitely listen to Pandora, and I've got my 70s rock and my Billy Idol and my Aerosmith and, all the stuff that we listened to growing up, because, music definitely motivates you. So I see that how important music and choreography is to Soulcycle, and then the ambiance in the room too, because it's normally like low lit. If I'm correct about saying that.
You are correct.
Let's talk about Soulcycle itself. Talk about the community. Talk about exactly what it brings to the table.
Okay. It's very interesting. When I got certified as an indoor cycling instructor, I believe it was 98 or 99. And I remember the most popular spin instructor at my gym telling me, "Oh, that's cool that you got certified, but spinning is on its way out, and it probably won't be around for much longer." The day I got certified, and so I did. I taught in LA for 8 years at a gym, and kind of learned the ropes and honed my craft, thank God, in a room with like 4, 5, 6 people. Soulcycle, the funny thing is the founders created it because they felt like there was not They wanted it to be different than the gym experience. Okay. They actually envisioned a yoga class on a bike. So that's why it's dimly lit. That's why there are candles, and they envisioned a soothing, calming, safe experience on the bike. And so that's how it started. And through the years, the boom, boom, boom made its way in, and the choreography made its way in. And honestly, much to my chagrin, because I personally still teach class how we did back when we started. That's the luxury I have because I got in the door at the beginning. Like, I could not come with who I am and the kind of class that I teach and the kind of music I play and try to get a job at Soulcycle today. I doubt that would happen because it's just a different ballgame now. It's really high energy, really choreographed, really EDM driven for the most part. And I am the opposite of all that. You would love my class, by the way. I'm definitely into high energy, but I'm more into the soulful aspect. I'm still more into the come in here and let's heal each other on the bike.
I love that.
Let's have a healing experience, because through my 57 years, I have learned that life can just kick the shit out of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to figure out your support system and your ways that you are going to continue to rise from the ashes. And I feel like I've done that over and over again. And the community at Soulcycle has been very interesting and it's very pleasantly surprising when you think about the fact that it was created in the heart of New York City, which is supposedly this cold and distant and hard place, right?
Right.
But these strangers came into this small room, and there's something magical about when you're all riding to the music together and working toward a common goal, and each either mourning or celebrating or grieving or coping or dealing or, all the myriad levels of life experience together in that dark room with the music. It bonds people. And I don't know about you. I would imagine, as a matter of fact, I think I read on your Instagram feed that you, of course, have made some of your dearest friends in your fitness activities.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So,
I'm sure you have too, right?
Yeah. A lot of my best and dearest friends I met in the gym. And Soulcycle is the same way. I've seen real friendships develop and bloom, and I will tell you, back in 2017, I came down with endometrial cancer out of the blue. And I try to keep reminding myself the overwhelming tidal wave of love and support. It makes me cry, actually.
Oh.
That came at me from the Soulcycle community to carry me through that process. And it was difficult. I thought at first it was supposed to be surgery and then you're going to be good to go. And then after they did the surgery, they said, oh, well, as a matter of fact, it's an aggressive cancer, so that means chemotherapy and radiation. And it just kept going. And then another surgery, and then another surgery, and it kept drawing out. And I taught class through the entire thing. The only time I took off was when I had chemotherapy. The next day I had to take off because it hits you so hard. But after that, I would show up and I would put a chair on the podium and I would teach from the chair.
Oh.
And my riders would say to me, Sue, it doesn't matter that you're not on the bike. We just want to be in the room with you. So that's the kind of place Soulcycle can be.
Right.
There's a lot of Soulcycle gets a lot of bad press. There's a lot of egos. There's a lot of scandal. There's a lot of stuff that has gone on. I'll tell you one story that I love to tell, but, there's always two sides. There's always lots of different facets to an entity that large, and there is some really profound goodness at Soulcycle and at the people that work there and the people that ride there. If you look for it, you're going to find the nasty and the bad, and the mean girls, and the competition, and the judgment, and the am I wearing, the right outfit, and it's some things you're going to find at any gym. But also, if you look for it, you're going to find the support, the encouragement, the love, the community, the goodness in people. So, it was started to be a community builder and a yoga class on a bike, and that element is still there. At least I know it's there in my class. I can't speak for it. We've gotten so big. When I started, it was one small studio in a room with 35 bikes. That's it. And now it's across the country, and it's in Europe and Canada. And I can't speak for all of Soulcycle anymore. But I definitely can speak to the profound and loving nature of my own class. And I know it has carried me through some terrible times in my life, and I know for a fact, because people have shared with me, that it has also carried them through some really hard times in their lives. So
I agree with that 100%, because I went through a very trying, difficult divorce. And if it wasn't for me showing up to the gym and working out and taking step classes and aerobics classes and, those spin classes, I think even with the spin, the darkness of the room. I mean, I would take classes in well-lit rooms, but then I would also take classes where they were like dimly lit, which to me, I really like, because your peripheral vision goes from, 190 or 180 all the way in where you're like super focused. And that to me, every time I would come out of that class, I would just feel like so much weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
If I even came out of the gym or any of those classes. And honestly, I look back today and I think if it wasn't for those classes, I don't even know if I would be here today, because it was such a release of stress, and regardless of what you're going through. So I can totally attest to all of that, and then all the great people that you meet along the way. And I really, really agree with that 100%.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to actually feel the same thing. I mean, I'm going through it now. It's different. It's not physical. Well, it was another life crisis like you're talking about. I too am going through just a brutal divorce. Not brutal in the way that it's antagonistic, but brutal in the way that it was a marriage that I dearly, dearly, dearly loved and actually did not want to end. And unfortunately, my soon-to-be ex-husband did not feel the same way. So this is much harder than cancer, much harder. And I'm afraid I've manifested it into my body physically. And so I'm discovering other avenues of healing. So I'm hoping, I know that I'll be able to incorporate them into my Soulcycle career and into my fitness journey. I'm learning about Reiki. I practice the Wim Hof method. Are you familiar with that?
And that's all about breathing.
Breathing in cold plunges.
Oh.
Uh-huh. And I'm learning a lot about breath and breath work. And I'm also a certified massage therapist. I did that in Los Angeles many years ago. And I haven't done it since I've been at Soulcycle, but I'm envisioning starting a practice of healing body work that incorporates Reiki and massage and the healing touch and breath work. Kind of my own personal, I'm right in the middle of putting that together. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really
I have
good.
to. I don't have a choice. Damn it, I'm going to get better if it kills me. And I just keep throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. So, and I have always encouraged people to do that with exercise. Try everything. find, you might be surprised. Find something that sparks joy in you, find that activity that you don't dread, but you actually look forward to.
Right. I tell a lot of women that too. I mean, it's not necessarily about, for me, bodybuilding. I mean, because I enjoy golf, I enjoy tennis, but that can be any sport, and it doesn't even have to be a sport. It could be, join a book club, join arts and crafts. Do you like to write poetry? I mean, it could be, there's so many things now, so many groups online, so many, there's the internet is just a plethora of information. If you want to try something or learn something new, it's there. And that to me is what keeps the mind young and the body young. It's just, you don't want, the older we get, the cobwebs, if you're not active physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, those cobwebs start to creep in. And then before you know it, being a flight attendant, I'm sure you saw, here we are in our late 50s, early 60s. And, we're teaching classes and going on and doing bodybuilding shows. And then I have passengers come on the airplane hunched over, the same age, and they're ringing for a glass of water, and they pull out this gallon bag of prescription pills, and they have to take they have to take 4 of these at 2:00. And I'm just like, oh my God, these people just don't have a clue. And then, with me being a fitness, coach, I have a lot of women in their 60s actually lately reaching out to me. And, for help because they want to lose weight and they want to get into the weight room. And when I put them on these programs, first of all, I'll say, write down everything that you've eaten for the last 3 days. And I just want you to be honest. I'm not here to judge. Women don't eat enough food. They don't eat enough carbs. They eat too much junk, too much processed food, and they drink too much wine. Now, I love wine, but there's a time and a place for wine. So, if you're really dead set on losing weight or you have specific goals, then you do have to make some sacrifices. And they don't have to be long-term sacrifices. They can be short-term. But I'm amazed that so many women that I've helped eat so much more food, and then they start training in the gym, and voila, oh my gosh, they're losing weight. They can't believe it. I'm eating all this food. I'm working out. I feel great now. I have energy. I'm losing all this weight. It's the best I've ever looked. My husband is taking notice again. And I think so many people out there are so used to feeling bad. They don't know what feeling good is anymore.
I agree. And it ends up being easier than they thought it was going to be initially, right?
Right.
Once you get the ball rolling, the older I get, the more I feel like, oh, look at I feel like, oh, I've wasted time. Like time, I should have, I don't sit around in regret, but I'm just like, holy shit, there's so much out there. There's so much to learn. There's so much to do. There's so much to try. Let's get it on because, I don't know how much time I have left. None of us do. You reminded me, I was in the subway in New York, and I thank you for making me realize that I actually don't give myself very much credit, ever for anything. But I feel pretty damn good for a 57-year-old woman. I did have to give up alcohol in this current life situation because I was depressed, and I realized that I could only get through it without alcohol. And the way I described it to my friends was, if you've had a bad day or you've had a rough week, have a drink, take the edge off, right? By all means, but when things in life get this bad, drinking is not going to help,
Right.
I can't take that temporary, oh, I feel good for 20 minutes and then terrible for the next 2 hours. So I just gave it up, and the sleep is delicious. And the energy is so much higher. So I agree. A beautiful glass of wine is a wonderful thing in life, but I'm very happy that I'm alcohol free right now. My energy is great. So I was bounding up the subway stairs the other day, and a woman was struggling with a little bit of heavier set, not obese or anything, but she was struggling with the cart taking up. And I said, may I help you with your cart? And she said, oh, thank you. So I helped her up, and I helped her get where she was going. And she said, I just want you to know that you are helping a 62-year-old woman today. And I didn't. I just thought in my mind, oh, you mean so we're the same age, She said it to me as though I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I thought we are in the same age range.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has labeled herself a 62-year-old woman that needs help getting up the subway stairs, and I'm, like I'm the road runner bounding up the stairs. And
That's so funny, and I love that you said that women label themselves, because that's exactly what it is. I mean, women do label themselves that I'm old, or I'm too old for this, or I can't do that. And what I love right now, looking at society and seeing all these women all of a sudden blooming at 50 and at 60. I've interviewed so many amazing women on my podcast who are in their 70s and 80s. My last podcast was this woman who was a surfer. She's 81 years old, and her and her mom.
I listened to that. It was fascinating.
Her and her mom, basically started surfing in Hawaii, for the women's movement for surfing in Hawaii back in the 1950s. Her mom, who just recently passed, but oh my gosh, what a force of nature. Yeah. I told her, I said, I can't imagine having a mom like that. She goes, it was the most incredible thing to have a mom like that back then, who, didn't take no for an answer. I didn't care if you were a man or a woman, that she did what she wanted to do when she wanted to do it. And I love that. And so for all this to be re-emerging and coming up, and, all of your community that comes to you on a weekly basis, they're there because of you. They're not there because of Soulcycle, because they like you, they like your music, they like the community, and especially they like what they get when they walk out the door. Sometimes it's so hard to get into the door. I go to the gym sometimes. Literally, I've gotten to the gym, driven up there, looked at it, and go, I just can't go in today. I turn around and just drive away. But of course, once you're there, so, once you can get motivated to get into the door, then you're set. And that's, for all your people. And I mean, every instructor has, people who love them and they go to their classes. I know I do too. I don't take too many classes anymore, but I loved it. I loved because of their vibe, their energy. You aspired to be like them. You wanted to look like them. You wanted to, how do they get this? What's that? Oh, I love this music, and I'd love their routines and stuff like that. So, you are to be commended, and you are one of thousands of women, especially today. I'm a huge advocate right now for bodybuilders, women over 50 and 60, that, we're writing all these promoters saying, hey, you know what? Just because we're over 60 doesn't mean we still can't compete or look good. And I was able to compete in the very first 60-plus pro bikini masters contest back in October in Tampa. I feel like it's a part of history that now all of a sudden all these women in their 60s want to compete amateurly so they can try to go to a national show to turn pro so they can compete in the pro leagues, because now their pro leagues are offering 60-plus. I think that's huge.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing.
It is amazing. And I'm just super excited about that. And, I have a show in 10 weeks, and I just got finished with COVID and pneumonia, and I'm just coming back. And you and I were talking about, this is an issue too. A lot of women will have overweight issues, but you and I struggle to gain weight and to put on muscle. And so, it's just, we all have our different strengths and weaknesses, but it hasn't, and it won't defeat me. And, I'm still at the gym every day, and I'm still, because I realize too, with being my immune system compromised with leukemia, that I've had leukemia now for almost 8 years. And even though it spiked up a little bit because I was sick over the last month, I feel great. I would never know that I'm sick. I don't have any symptoms. I'm not taking any treatments. And I know it's because exercise right, my diet, eating basically clean, positive mindset, and just really, just trudging forward with that eyes always forward approach. And I know, with you going through, I've went through a horrendous divorce too, so I can feel your pain. It's not easy. It's not fun. But, for me, it was just take it day by day. And, you have to blaze your own path. You have to okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to, I'm going to jump and the net's going to appear.
Yeah, this is definitely a time of discovery for me. I just started taking piano lessons. I mean, I took piano when I was a kid, but let the musicality in my life, put it on the back burner for 40 years while I was an athlete. And now I started piano again, which has been wonderful. And I am going to try everything. I'm going to do everything. physical, mental, spiritual, musical, culinary, travel-wise. I mean, now's the time. Now's the time.
It is, and that's my whole thing with my Age is Irrelevant brand. It's just like age has no bearing on what you can do, what you want to do. Just go out there and do it. And, I have a bucket list of things I want to do. I have a friend who's coming out to Scottsdale in March. We're going to go skydiving. I can't wait. I've been waiting.
I've never done that.
I've been wanting to go. There are people, aren't you afraid? I'm like, oh my God, exhilarated. I can't wait to jump out of an airplane. I just think that's going to be amazing, so that's my next little adventure in March. But, I keep thinking, what else can I do? I'm turning 65 and I was actually thinking about, I would love to climb Mount Kilimanjaro one day. Not really sure when that might happen, but it's on the bucket list. So,
right on.
And I'm not letting my age deter me from doing that either. So,
that's funny. I don't think that way either. That never crosses my mind.
Yeah.
When I think of something I want to try or something I want to do, unless it's like try out for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Right.
Like there's certain things that, okay, that phase of life
right.
I have passed that phase of life. But
right.
As far as in general, like all the wonderful things to experience out there, one thing I'm learning now, it's funny to be now that Soulcycle has expanded so much, it has expanded younger. So it was started by women, 3 women in their late 30s, 15, 16 years ago. So you can do the math, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The instructors back then, I was in my early 40s when I started. We were all around the same age. This wasn't a bunch of whippersnappers starting this business. This was women in their 30s and 40s that started this business 15, 16 years ago. And so now that means that the legacy instructors at Soulcycle are in their 50s. And which was funny because when Equinox bought Soulcycle, Equinox has a very youthful brand, right? All their ad campaigns and their image is very youthful. And so Soulcycle's is too. It's very youthful, music-wise, fitness-wise, clothing-wise, everything. And I'm, kind of in the background going, hello, there's a lot of women at this company. And, well, I was going to say and men. I mean, there are men at the company, but they're all younger. But there are a lot of women in their 40s and 50s and about to be in their 60s that are powerhouses at this company.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not advertised or not celebrated much. I'm just realizing.
Well, and it's interesting because if they were smart, because I see the trends and,
Thank you.
I see the trends. And what's even more is like, women like us, a lot of women who hit 50, they're at a crossroads. All my friends, their kids are graduating from college. They're literally transforming themselves, or they're coming to this like crossroads, and they're like, okay, now empty nesters, possible relationship changes, menopause, their bodies are going through changes. So there's a lot going on. And so, there's no reason just to sit back and like be the victim and the martyr and go, okay, well, here we go. Oh my God, I'm over 50 now. It's all downhill from here. It's like, no. It's like, I always laugh. I'm on Helen point. I'm on Helen 3.0 now. When I just moved to Scottsdale a year and a half ago, I've started a whole new chapter out there. So it's just like, and who knows that Helen 4.0 might not, it may occur when I turn 70. Who knows? But people shouldn't disregard, or women shouldn't disregard, at a certain age, all of a sudden now I have to stop. And even like the way that you dress or the company that you keep, getting divorced and dating younger men. It's just like, who cares?
It's just that for me, in my 20s and 30s, exercise was, of course, we all wanted to exercise because we all wanted to fit into whatever clothes we wanted to wear.
Right. Yep.
And you're younger and you can go out and party and then get up and work out the next day. And So that's like the low hanging fruit. Like those kids are all going to exercise, right? But we have this field of women our age, and now it's like we're the ones that are the untapped market. I think
Totally untapped market, and
because culture, our entire national culture, global perhaps, is youth obsessed, and I definitely am glad to not fall into that stereotype, to buck that trend, and to keep kicking hard, well at where I am, and yes, into the future. I was going to say something about that, and it slipped my mind, but.
And I think where it starts with you, I think also too, is that you have such a loyal community. And I think that when women talk to me about this, I'm like, the best thing you can do is get yourself involved with like-minded people who share the same interests and joys as you do. And whether it be athletically or, mindfully, I have my sister-in-law, she's a voracious reader. She loves her book club. Now, the book club is like they do read books, but they also get together and go to a restaurant and have a really great time, or they go to somebody's house and it's basically a party every month or twice a month. But stuff like that I love. It's just like, use your body, use your mind, and then celebrate those women that you surround yourself with, because that to me just brings so much joy and depth and prosperity to your own life. I mean, if you're happy from within, then you're going to exude happiness without too, when you go out into the community. So I think it's just a win-win. And plus with women our age too, if we're retired or, we have so much more to offer as far as money being expendable. Like we'll pay more to go places, do things, travel with a group, do a weekend retreat at some really nice resort, go to Europe versus some 20-something who can't afford that yet. So Soulcycle, is missing out. A lot of these brands who are focusing on young's important, but I think now with this resurgence of all these women, all the gals who are silver haired now, who are showing up on the magazine covers and stuff, I freaking love it. I celebrate that. I do. I'm so joyful when I see all this stuff. I love all my friends and all the celebration that goes on, and all the things that they experience, and all the things that they conquer, all their goals reached. I love it.
I was just telling, I had I do a restorative class at Soulcycle. There's one class on this entire Soulcycle schedule. I call it my restorative ride, and it's more healing music. It's not the boom. It's not the high energy dance music. Even it's not the hard rock and roll. It's just very healing, very inspirational music for anyone who wants to come in and just have a healing vibe. And surprisingly enough, a lot of young people have started coming to that class.
I love it. Well, good.
Yeah. And I just got on a kick the other night telling them, I remember when I was your age, and I thought somebody in their 30s was so old. And 40s and 50s, forget it. 1 foot in the grave, almost dead.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you from the other side of that that's not how it is at all. I said, I don't remember anyone when I was in my 20s. I don't remember any older adult talking to me and telling me what it was like being in your 50s or 60s.
I agree. You had your parents, and that was it.
And I said, your parents don't count. Because you're not going to listen to your parents, you have a different perspective of your parents. Just a random adult in your life telling you, oh, wow, this is what it's like to be 50 or 60. And you and I and people of our age have the knowledge and the perspective of what it's like to be both. We remember what it's like to be 20, 30, and now we know what it's like to be 50, 60. And it's funny that none of us try to impart any of that perspective onto people that are younger, although I guess proverbially it's said that they're not going to listen until you have to experience it yourself.
Well, and I agree with that too. I think it's funny because like I have a nephew right now. He's 18. He's a freshman at Penn State, and I got him actually into bodybuilding a couple of years ago. We went to the gym together, and all of a sudden he's like, it's the cutest thing ever. He's sending me progress pictures and what kind of supplements, and he wanted some. His knees were bothering, so I sent him some knee sleeves. And oh my God, these are awesome! And it's just the cutest thing. And I talk to him when I go visit because he'll say something to his mom, and I'm like, excuse me, you don't talk to your mom that way. And all of a sudden he's just like, so it's, or these flight attendants now, I've been flying 35 years. We have all these new hires and they actually are like, listening to us or listening to me at least. And, so it's just, if I had a choice to go back to being 20 and 30, hell no, I would not ever want to go back there. I love my 50s. I love my 60s. It just keeps getting better. And I think, you and I, role models and all the other women out there who decide to set their sights, they're inspiring somebody. I see a lot of these women now who are starting to lift weights, and they all have friends, and their friends see the changes. I love it. I mean, we all inspire somebody, and I just like we need to just keep the ball rolling.
I will say that the reason I feel that I've been successful at Soulcycle is because I'm not perfect. I am absolutely human on the bike. I do not pretend to be perfect. I do not pretend to be stronger or more energetic or more motivated or any of that. I show up with whoever I am that day, and I am completely honest with my riders. They've seen me struggle. They've seen me fail. They've seen me strong. They've seen me weak. All, and they know that they're safe to show up the same way. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a certain size. You don't have to wear certain clothes, certain gender, race, sexuality, all that nonsense. Like all those fears that keep us from trying a new exercise or a new activity, that's one of the blessings of getting older is that you just don't give a fig anymore, right? Like
true.
Now when New York City, Los Angeles, both those cities can be, I grew up in small towns, those cities are intimidating. And you walk into a gym and you are afraid of looking foolish or like that you don't know what you're doing. And now I gotta say that I can walk into any situation, class, gym, or whatever, and I don't care what people think of me. I don't care if I look like a beginner. I don't care if I look like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I just don't care anymore in the best of ways.
Yeah.
And because those things will stop you from trying a new adventure, a new activity, a new exercise, a new class, whatever. And now's the time to let go of the fear and the reservations and the self-doubt and just start trying stuff. And you will strike upon some things that you won't even have to try hard. You'll realize, oh, this is it. And it'll come naturally and you'll be organically inspired to continue and get better. And that's what happens at Soulcycle a lot.
Well, then Soulcycle is like a way of life just because I've seen so many women transform, and that's exactly their transformation that they go through. It's just organically inspired. Once they start seeing and feeling the changes, and these magical transformations happen. And it's infectious. This one gal who I just ended up program with, her husband all of a sudden started showing interest. Now he wants to get on. He wants to learn how to calculate macros and stuff. It's just, I loved it. And she was like so tickled. She goes, this is like so awesome. She goes, I haven't pressured him about anything, but he was just watching. And all of a sudden he wants to learn. And I thought, that's how it starts. So Sue, our time is up, but I loved it. This conversation was phenomenal. I love talking about Soulcycle because Soulcycle is so, it's to me, it's very, very, the whole scenario. I mean, I look forward to taking a class one day. I've still got my spin shoes and they're still usable.
Come on in. You'd love it.
Yeah. And so I think the community there, and then the mental aspects probably are the most, because, mindset's everything. And if you have this positive mindset and you can have that, regardless, I know things happen and we hit roadblocks and detours along the way, but if you can really develop a positive mindset and get yourself in a really great community of like-minded people, you're going to do well, and you're a huge example of that. And I'm so grateful to have women like you teaching in a sport like that who influence and inspire so many other women our age.
Thank you, Helen. It's been an honor and a privilege. I really appreciate it.
And if I do get to New York City, I do have New York City layovers. So if I get there, I'll let you know. I mean, that would be so much fun. I'll bring my shoes.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
I sure hope you enjoyed this interview with Sue. There were several things that stood out for me, and here are my takeaways. Number one, I loved hearing about Sue's journey at Soulcycle, starting off at the very beginning with a studio in New York City, working bi-coastal in LA and New York City, thanks for the joy of being a flight attendant and eventually becoming a senior master Soulcycle instructor. Soulcycle centers around the community, and Sue has gathered quite the following because she brings realness to her classes. She doesn't pretend to be perfect while on the bike. Her classes see her strength as a strong woman, but they also see her weak when she's dealing with and facing tough times or tough situations. And honestly, I think we can all relate to that. Number two, I keep throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. I really love this statement that Sue made because in essence, we all, especially at our age, should be doing the exact same thing. Many of us are at a crossroads in life and starting new chapters, not really sure which direction to take. That's where we need to start throwing things out there to see what sticks, to see what directions we want to actually go in, to see what interests us, to see what draws us. Being stagnant is a great way to wither up and fade away. But being active, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, will keep us thriving, happy, and living longer to boot. And finally, Sue said, at this point, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to try everything. I think we all need to adopt that philosophy. How many of us have stepped outside of the box to try something new and different and realized that you really liked it? You never know until you try. And at this point, age truly is irrelevant because trying something new for the first time has no age requirements. Lucky us. Thank you again for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please go to iTunes and give me a great review and a subscribe. That'd be awesome. And you can also share this podcast with your friends and family, especially on social media, and tag me if you do. I always love when I see my listeners tagging me in their posts and their stories because these episodes have inspired them and motivated them to try do new and different things. If you'd like to get a hold of Sue, you can reach her through Instagram. She is on social media at Soulcycle Sue. And if you want to reach me, you can find me at ageisirrelevant.com. Or you can also email me at helen@ageisirrelevant.com. Once again, age truly is irrelevant in anything that you do. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.